I was requested to make a video about Neo Metal Sonic, but unfortunately I can't remember who asked for this video. The comments got lost in one of my comment sections after my video started blowing up. But anyway, somebody who watches my videos asked me to talk about how Metal Sonic became Neo Metal Sonic in Sonic Heroes. So here I go. With Sonic Heroes now becoming a much older and more irrelevant title in the Sonic franchise, many younger fans probably have no idea about what happened in the game, and definitely never played it for themselves. So it's probably best if I give a little recap on who Neo Metal Sonic was in that game, before I delve into the potential background of the character. The basic plot of Sonic Heroes is that Eggman is planning to conquer the world in 3 days, and challenges Sonic and friends to stop him. But it turns out that Eggman had actually been imprisoned for the entire game, which is discovered in the Team Chaotix story. So who was the one who was really trying to conquer the world? This guy.
All living things kneel before your master.
Now, Metal Sonic is nothing new in modern games. No matter how surprising Sega tries to make his entrance, it no longer has the same effect as it did back in Sonic Heroes. That's because Metal hadn't exactly made a major appearance since Knuckles' Chaotix, which was in 1994. He had been out of the main games for about 10 years, and Sonic Heroes was his grand return. Funny enough, it was also the grand return for the Chaotix, but we're not talking about them today. Now, it looks more obvious that this character is Metal Sonic since we've seen him a lot since Sonic Heroes was released. But in 2004, it wasn't actually clear that this was the same Metal Sonic until the very end. His design was completely different, and I do believe that the only reason Sega gave this design to Metal was to make him look mysterious, and that's why we never actually were told about how he got the design. But fear not, I will come up with a theory for you guys. So, what can Neo Metal Sonic actually do? What is he like? What does he do in that game? Well, one of his main abilities is his shapeshifting one. During his small appearances before the final story, the Eggman decoy which Metal was disguised as would melt into a puddle of liquid metal, and this liquid puddle would be Neo Metal Sonic. Sometimes the player would only hear his voice coming from the puddle, but other times the player would actually see him reform into his true shape. The second ability, which is probably one which has been referenced more in games like Sonic Rivals 2, is his ability to copy data. Throughout the game, he is copying data from other characters, mainly searching for the data on Chaos and the Ultimate Lifeform. The reason for this is to make himself stronger. So by the end of the game, he is a near-invincible monster with the powers of other beings like Shadow and Chaos. Those are the more well-known abilities of Neo Metal Sonic, since they are the ones that we see the most of in that game, and ultimately affect the plot the most. There is one other known ability, and that is his ability to fire electricity from his hands. I personally think that this is a pretty cool power, and I'd honestly love to see Metal have that kind of power back. It's way more effective than a chest laser. The only other ability is more of a speculation, which is his ability to talk. Many fans argue that Metal can only talk in his Neo form, since when he refers to his regular form, he doesn't say anything.
It's no use, but why can't I defeat you?
I personally think that Sega decided to give him the ability to speak in that game regardless of what form he was in, but for the sake of this video, let's just say that it's a Neo Metal Sonic only ability. With his powers out of the way, let's remind ourselves of his goal. Metal wanted to take over the world and rule a kingdom of robots. In Hang Castle, he even constructed a statue of himself, so he had been setting this up for some time. It's never explained why he wanted to rule a kingdom of robots, so again, I will be adding that into my theory, but I will say that it's interesting how much that resembles Eggman's goal. Eggman, particularly in the early 90s in the cartoons, wanted to rule over roboticized civilians and his own robots. Plus he did just want to defeat Sonic. That is exactly like Neo Metal Sonic. Metal wanted to finally beat Sonic after being defeated so many times, and he wanted to rule over a robot kingdom once everyone was out of his way. So maybe this goal of his was actually just a reference to those old cartoons. Finally, we can get down to the theory. Why did Metal Sonic become Neo Metal Sonic? And how did he get to where he was in that game before Sonic and friends intervened? Here is my theory. Metal Sonic had been inactive for a while. Eggman hadn't really used him in a long time, and had kept him locked up in a chamber which can actually be found in Sonic Adventure. After being defeated numerous times, and after losing his newest weapon, Shadow the Hedgehog, Eggman had decided to bring Metal Sonic back into action, but he needed an upgrade. Eggman implemented the ability to shapeshift, so that Metal could disguise himself as Sonic, so Sonic could get blamed for Metal's crimes. And he also gave Metal a higher level of intelligence, but that was his mistake. Metal's intelligence led him to see his creator as inferior. He had failed so many times, so he saw no reason to follow him. He also overheard the fact that Eggman had recovered Shadow, his other weapon, which further encouraged Metal to rebel. He wanted to be stronger than Shadow. In fact, if he knew where Shadow was being held, he would have killed him after copying his data, but Eggman never gave him the location. Metal locked Eggman away aboard the fleets he had taken over, and he hated his upgrades. They weren't enough. They weren't going to make him stronger, so he used his shapeshifting ability to take on a new base form, which was different from his original. It made him look more unique and independent, and it was a design a ruler should have. This new form would be called Neo Metal Sonic, as Neo translates to new in English. He was the new Metal Sonic now, because he was no longer anything like his former self. Neo Metal Sonic gave himself some upgrades, mainly by stealing some technology of Eggman's, and he went on a quest to find remnants of Chaos so that he could gain their power. He chose to disguise himself as Eggman using his shapeshifting ability, as that would attract his enemies. They would be more confident facing a villain they were familiar with. He also happened to attract Shadow, the true Ultimate's life form. Metal took the opportunity to scan him while he had the chance. Once he had absorbed enough data, Metal chose to evolve into a form he couldn't just shapeshift into. He had planned how to create his newer form, the Metal Overlord, and planned to use the debris from one of the fleet towers. In this form, he would be like Perfect Chaos, and would also be like the Bio-Lizard, the original Ultimate life form. He would be a powerful monster, but he had the ability to think and communicate. At this point, Metal had just become power-hungry, but he didn't seem out of control. He was just desperate to crush Sonic, the foe he was built to defeat, but failed to destroy so many times. Now, unlike other monsters Sonic had faced, Metal did have one ultimate goal beyond destroying everything, and that was to rule a new world of robots. This is because, as an intelligent machine who now had the data of other living things, Metal planned to lead an uprising. He despised organic life forms, he was jealous of them. He hated how organics, like Eggman, could be so stupid yet feel so superior over machines. He wanted to prove that robots were superior, and that's why he wanted a world where they were dominant. But, unfortunately, Metal Overlord was defeated. He lost his upgrades and returned to his Neo form after landing on one of those ships, but he no longer had the strength to even maintain that form with his shapeshifting ability. He was so low on energy that he returned to his normal form and then shut down. After that, Shadow recovered him with Omega and returned him to Eggman, his owner, and Eggman decided that his intelligence and powers had to be removed. Metal was reduced to nothing but a shell of his former self, and was even stripped of the right to speech. That was his punishment for trying to overthrow his creator. Eggman had set an example. Not even his greatest creation was treated with gentleness. He was ruthless to those who tried to betray him, and that's why Metal, to this day, is just an obedient robot. He is still capable of showing some signs of free will, like in Sonic Rivals 2, but Eggman has made sure that he will never rebel ever again. So, there you go. That's how Neo Metal Sonic came to be, and that's how he was returned to his weaker self. It's a shame that Neo Metal Sonic only made one brief appearance, but I don't mind how Metal is now. He's one of the few Sonic characters who hasn't been severely butchered. Also, I will mention that Neo Metal Sonic was seen in the Archie comics, but that didn't really count. What really counts is the IDW comics, where Neo Metal Sonic practically returns as the same character from Sonic Heroes, only this time we actually see more of him. He's intimidating and he's cold. He's powerful and power hungry. Those comics are really worth a read. I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed making it. This has been Lord Danny and I am signing out.